The Rugby Championship 2019 is just around the corner. Who are the predicted winners? What are the odds each country is getting? So these are bookies odds that I'm basing this on for predictions. Remember, always keep in mind, bookies odds are put there by bookmakers for the main purpose of the bookmaker making money. So we kind of view the results with a word of caution. Um, but yeah, I mean, they do put a lot of time and research into setting decent odds that they think people are going to bet on. So I've had a look at the betting odds from a New Zealand bookmaker and worked out the percentage odds for those given odds. Um, it's a little bit different from bookie to bookie, but not much. I did have a quick look at a South African and an Australian bookmaker to compare. There was a little bit of variation, but not a whole lot. And surprisingly, the South African bookmaker didn't actually give the South Africans a better chance, and likewise, the Aussie bookmaker didn't give the Aussies a better chance. So often, when there's more punters putting money on their own team, that sways the odds a bit, but not so much the case here. So I've had a look at the odds. I'll put them on the board, and we can have a look at the fixtures to see if you think that affects the odds, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. So the favourite for this one is New Zealand. Bookmakers giving them a 73% chance of winning the Rugby Championship, which is a pretty big chance. They're paying like $1.25 here in New Zealand. So if I combine all the odds together and convert it into a percentage, that's 73% for them. Second place is the Springboks. They are at 14%, which is substantially lower between first and second. That seems to be, a pretty big swing towards the All Blacks for that one. Third place is the Aussies with 9.5%, and then the Argentinians, despite the fact that many of their players who were performing in Super Rugby with the Jaguares, they're still not favoured with the remaining 3.5%. So yeah, New Zealand pretty heavy favourites, which I guess is to be expected most times because their record in the Rugby Championship and the Tri Nations is pretty good. But I mean, I look back at World Cup years. So 2015, New Zealand didn't win the Rugby Championship. 2011, New Zealand didn't win the Tri Nations. So there is a bit of a history of New Zealand not winning in that World Cup year and then going on to win the World Cup. I think we did win the Tri Nations in 2007 and then went on to lose the World Cup. So there seems to be a bit of a pattern there. Who knows? I mean, that history stuff can all change, but that just is what it is. If you look at the fixtures, and remembering this is an abridged form of the competition this year because of the World Cup, so we've only got 3 weeks of Tri-Nations of Rugby Championship to play. So yeah, it's a better chance, I guess, for New Zealand to lose, given that they don't have to play other teams twice. So if you want to be the champion in US, South Africa, the Wallabies, or Argentina, you only have to beat New Zealand once, and then beat the others, and you're kind of golden. It's more like a kind of Six Nations feeling to it, I guess, because you don't have to beat any one team twice. Fixtures, first week, South Africa against Australia in South Africa, Argentina against New Zealand in Argentina. I guess that looks like a pretty tough prospect for Australia. And the Argentinians will be confident based on the Super Rugby form and the fact that the Kiwis have got some of their Crusaders players out who are being given a bit of extra rest, but obviously the All Blacks are going to be favourites going into that one, despite those facts. New Zealand against South Africa in the second week. That's New Zealand's only home game. And Australia against Argentina in Australia in the second week. New Zealand will be trying to erase a bit of recent history because the game is also in Wellington again, so they'll be wanting to get a win. Third week, Australia against New Zealand in Australia and Argentina against South Africa in Argentina. So it's an interesting one when you look at the fixtures because New Zealand's only got one home game, and that is South Africa. I suppose from a New Zealand point of view, you'd rather play South Africa at home than have to travel to South Africa and potentially play at altitude. The South Africans have only got one home game, and that is against Australia. You'd probably rather have it as New Zealand if you're a South African fan because, I mean, despite the fact that last year's results went, both teams won away, you figure you'd want any advantage you can against the All Blacks, whereas the Wallabies, who've been in a bit of disarray, and the Pumas, who, I mean, despite some strong form this year, often do finish towards the bottom end of the pack. I'm not saying that's going to happen this year, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, South Africa might want to switch that home game, but that is what it is. The Argentinians have got an interesting one in that they only play one game away, and it's to Australia. And as I said, with the Wallabies being, Aussie rugby being in a bit out of form, but out of touch, they might look at that as it'd be a big accomplishment, but they've got a schedule which looks better than 3.5% for mine. And the Aussies they've got 2 home games. It's to Argentina and New Zealand. Still, that away trip to South Africa, I think, does look pretty tough. So I suppose it could be worse. There is a 4th week of games, which is not part of the Rugby Championship. So New Zealand will host Australia in a Bledisloe game, and the South Africans and the Argentinians will play kind of a World Cup warm-up game. So there's still 4 weeks of games, but these are the odds just for those first 3. Outright winner for the Rugby Championship. How well do they sit with you? Do you still think New Zealand are comfortable favourites, even if they're resting players for their trip to Argentina? Can South Africa come and do a repeat of last year and pick up a win in Wellington? That's what I mean. Any one win against the All Blacks and it's kind of anybody's game. Will the Wallabies get themselves together? Can the Pumas carry Super Rugby form over once they've added those few kind of top stars from Europe? It's going to be interesting. You guys let me know your thoughts on the odds. How well do they ring true to you? Have you put any money? Would you put? I think it's like $26 for the Pumas if they can win the comp. Is it worth a few dollars on Argentina to pick up their maiden title? You guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you guys later.